Hi everyone, this is Tony from Psych Studios. I want to thank you for stopping by to watch this tutorial. Today we're going to work on a project that I've had a couple questions about, and basically what it is we're going to use Photoshop to learn to make an animated text GIF. You can use it as a button, as a banner, however you want to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and just start off with a basic example, and you can take it from there, because basically what it is just learning the fundamentals of how to do what you need to do. So we're going to start off with making a new file. So we're just going to open it up, and I'm going to go with a width of 1000 pixels by 300 pixels. Resolution can be at 72 because it's going to be made for the web anyway. Alright, so I'm going to make sure my foreground color is black by switching here. If it's not black, you can just click on it and drag down to the bottom, or type in all zeros here. Choose OK. I'm going to grab my shape tool here, and I'm going to choose rounded rectangle tool. And then we've got a radius of 10 pixels, which is what I'm going to use. You can increase it if you want more rounded edges, decrease it if you want less. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw out a shape, just like that. Okay, now we've got our shape. I'm going to hide our background, unlock it, delete it, because we don't need it anymore. Alright, now we're going to use our gradient tool. So in this particular instance, I'm going to use blue, just straight up blue. You can use any color you like. I'm using 000 CFF. If you're practicing and want to follow along with me, those are the values that you can use. So okay. Now we want to make sure the foreground is set to black and the background is set to blue. Alright, now we're going to come up here and grab our gradient tool. You may see the paint bucket tool like this, but just hold down the mouse, the left mouse button on it, and choose the gradient tool. You got several options up here, but we want to make sure we choose linear gradient. Okay, and as we see, it's going black to blue, which is what we want. So now we're going to create a new layer. So we have our new layer on top of our shape 1. We're going to come over here about 3/4 of the way, hold down your shift key, and just left click and drag to the right and let go. As you see, we've got black to blue like we wanted, but what happened? Now all of our roundness that we had is gone. Well, there's a trick here. We're going to click on that layer 1, and we're going to right click on it then, and we're going to choose create clipping mask. Once we do that, see how it conforms to the shape we just made. Now after doing that, we're just going to go ahead and hold Control and select both layers. And let's go ahead and merge those layers. Okay? Now that we've done that, we need to go ahead and add a filter. And we're going to be using this filter a lot. It's under Sketch, Water Paper. Now for this first one, it's going to be the values for fiber length are going to be 5. We're going to use 53 for the brightness, and the contrast will be 73. We're not really going to bother the contrast throughout this tutorial. It'll pretty much stay the same. It's the brightness and the fiber length that'll change, and you'll see as we go up and down through what we're doing here, because this is going to be a little bit repetitive, but it's showing you how to do an animation, so you can kind of expect that. So we're going to choose OK, and depending on the colors you used, you might see some white spots inside your black area here. Well, that's not a problem. Just make sure your black is in the foreground. Grab your brush and just color right over the top of that. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm trying to, kind of get the idea across, so I'm just going to take out most of the black here. Okay, so that's not bad. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now we need to get some text on this. So let's go ahead and choose our text tool. You can choose any font you want. Arial, you can choose the standard fonts. You can go hunt down a font. If your website has a particular font that you use, you can use it. I'm going to use Super Street Fighter 4 font that I like a whole lot. For this, we're going to back it down to about 130, and we can adjust from there. That's just a rough guess. So we're just going to click here, and I'm going to say coming soon. Alright, now we got our text, and of course it's all black and you can't really see anything, but that's okay, because I'm going to switch it, and we're going to use the color from our blue over here, which is normal, and we may have to change some more on the cutoff, but it should have caught it all. So now we see our text is huge, and that's a problem. So we're going to turn on our transformation controls by either checking this box at the top, or Control T will do it also. If you're on a Mac, it's Command T. I won't be throwing out a whole lot of Mac shortcuts because I use PC mostly, and I'll tell you how to do it both ways in a lot of cases, but most of the time I'll just show you the practical way to do it so you don't have to remember a whole lot of shortcuts. So now that we have our transform box, let's just click on one of the corners, and you saw how it expanded a little bit. Now hold Shift and Alt, and on that corner hold down your left mouse button and just drag inward. You see how it completely shapes everything in proportions, and that's what we want. So we want it to be about right here as far as distance, black from the text to the blue to this side to the black here. But we don't know about the positioning here going vertical, and this is where another handy tool comes in. We're going to hold Control and click the other layer, so we got both layers selected. We're going to come up here, and we're going to use the Align Vertical Centers. And in my case, I got really lucky and hit it dead on pretty much. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it as it is. So we're going to turn off that. Now let's go ahead and merge these layers. Alright. Now I'm going to go ahead and rename this layer Original. And you'll see why I'm doing that shortly, because we're going to have a whole lot of duplicating these layers in the course of this tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and start off and duplicate this layer. You can use Control J, Command J, or just right click and duplicate layer. I prefer right clicking and duplicating layer because you can name the layer as you go, and we're going to be doing a lot of that. So we're going to call this 1. Alright, now that we've got this layer here, we're going to go back and add another filter. So filter, sketch, water paper. This time some of the actual values are going to rapidly change the first time, and then progressively change after that. So the fiber length we're going to go with 50. The brightness we're going to go with 0. We want this to be black. We're going to leave the contrast alone. No need to change it. Okay, and now that we've done that, we're going to go back to our original. That's why I said original. Very easy to distinguish. We're going to click on it, right click on it, and duplicate layer. And we're going to call it number 2. Okay, number 2. Now we're going to drag it to the top. We always want to make sure it goes in order from least to greatest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up the ladder, just like that. And you can always tell when your highest number is on top, because you'll see this before you add the adjustments. So we're going to add another filter, and you're going to become real good friends with this sketch water paper filter because we're going to use it a lot. Okay, so now that we've done this, we're going to change not the fiber length but the brightness. We're going to change that to 20. You can start to see a little of the blue come through at that point. And like I said, we're never going to touch the contrast. We're going to leave that alone. Okay, so again, we're just going to rinse and repeat. We're going to select the original layer, duplicate number 3. Okay, drag it to the top, and we're going to go to sketch, water paper, and we're going to start changing some of these values in the middle here. This brightness, and you'll see we're just going to keep going up to a certain point, and then we're going to switch to changing another value, which will be the fiber length. But we'll get there. We'll just take it slow. I want my tutorials to be, I want an expert to be able to follow. I want someone who's never used Photoshop before to be able to follow. So forgive me if I go slow and show the exact tools I'm using. I'm trying to teach a little bit too while we're having some fun. So now we've got all the way up to 3, but we're going a lot further. So again, select original, duplicate layer. We're going to call it number 4. Okay. Drag it to the top. Okay, and you guessed it, we're going to add another filter. Sketch, water paper. Alright, so this time we're going to change the brightness to 40. And as you can see, each time a little more of that blue starts to come through on the side and in the middle, and that's what we're after. So we're going to right click original again, we're going to duplicate the layer, and we're going to call it number 5. And I'm sorry this gets a little monotonous, but we've got to have multiple layers, to make an animation. So you can do this with photos in different layers if you want, but for what we're doing, like I said, a button, banner, maybe you've got a site that's coming soon and you want an animation, a button that's coming for it. So now we've got 5 pulled to the top, and again, filter, sketch, water paper. Alright. So now we've got 50, 40, and 73. Now it's time to change this right here, the brightness, for the last time. So we're going to go all the way up to 50. We're going to hit OK, and that's the last we're going to touch of the brightness. Now we're going to start changing the fiber length value. So again, we're going to duplicate the layer, number 6, OK. And let's bring it to the very top. Okay. We're going to go ahead and go back to sketch. My mouse is a little shaky today, I apologize. Alright, and now we're going to start doing some changes a little bit differently. We're going to leave the brightness at 50, the contrast at 73, and we want the fiber length to change. So we're going to change that to 40. Okay, and as you can see, we're getting this good looking kind of plaid crosshatch look coming, and you'll see when the finished product comes across, you'll see how it fades in and out, and that it actually looks really good. Alright, so we're just going to do this a few more times. Again, I think you've probably got the hang of what we're doing. Create a new layer, name it in sequence, move it to the top, filter, sketch, water paper, and this time this value is going to be 30. Okay, and again, duplicate this original layer. We're going to name it 8. Okay, move it to the top, filter, sketch, water paper. Okay, and we're going to change this value again to 20. Okay. Alright, and again, I apologize for all the repetition, but when we're working with animation, it has to be done. So number 9, we're going to move it all the way to the top. Filter, sketch, water paper. We're going to change this value here to 10. Alright. So now we've got something starting all the way at black, going all the way up to this kind of funny looking text, which I know seems odd, but it's really what we're looking for. So now we're going to duplicate the original layer again, just like we have before, but there's a twist. This time we're not going to add anything to it. So we're going to call it 10, and we're going to move it all the way up to the top. But this time we're not going to touch it. We're not going to add any filters to it. But here's what we're going to do. we're going to highlight number 9, go all the way down to 1, and hold shift and click it. Alright, now we need to duplicate layers. Choose OK, and now we have a bunch of copies. Now we need to rearrange the order of these. So as you see, we have it counting up here. Now it needs to start here and count down. So let's just rearrange. We're going to pull 10 down. We're going to go to 9 copy, 8 copy, 7 copy, 6 copy, 5 copy, 4 copy, 3 copy, 2 copy, and 1 copy there at the top. Now, what we're going to do is delete original at this point. We don't need it. We're just going to remove it. We're going to go ahead and delete it. We don't need it. Okay. So we're going to turn off the visibility of every one of these layers right now except for number 1. And I know that seems weird because we just sat and made them all, but you'll see what I mean when we do the animation. So now that we have one selected, we're going to go up here under Window, go to Animation, and you see we have our first frame selected. Okay. Now, if you're using Adobe Photoshop CS5 Extended, it might start out in a timeline mode instead of a frames mode. If that happens, you have a little button down here that you can swap to frames, and that's what you're going to want to do. That's the only difference between Extended and the standard version that I'm using now. So once we've got our animation window up and we see our first frame, we're going to go right here to this little button and we're going to click it and we're going to say Make Frames from Layers. And as you see, it's going to pull in all the layers that we have into our timeline, which is now a frame line. So what we need to do is start with our first, and these times, let me add at the beginning, these times increments can be changed to your liking. Again, this is just what I'm doing for the sake of showing you how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab 1 and go all the way up to 9, hold shift and click it. That selects them all. I'm going to click this little down arrow and choose 0.1 seconds, and you see how that changes it for them all. Number 10, I'm going to make it 0.2 seconds, and then 11 through 19 we're going to do the same thing. Click 11, hold shift, click 19, and then and then we're going to change that value to 0.1 seconds. Okay, so the hard part's over. Now we just need to save it. I know it looks strange now, but once you go up under File, and we're going to choose Save for Web and Devices, okay? It will come up as a GIF, and yours might say something different, but let's choose GIF 128-bit dithered. Okay, and you'll see all these little blocks come in and everything, but that's perfectly natural. That's the way it's supposed to be. Alright, so now we're going to save our file. And where do we want to save our file? Well, I'm going to save it under finished GIF here. So we'll name it button.gif. We're going to go ahead and save it, and it's saved. Alright, now let's preview our button, see what it looks like. It will open in a web browser that can support Windows Picture Viewer doesn't support GIFs, it can't see it. So when we test it and look at it, it will open in a web browser to show us what it looks like. Alright, and there we go. So, as you can see, that's what we've got. The blinking, coming soon, coming in and out. And that's how we make a animated GIF. So, I hope that was helpful for you. You can save this also as a PSD in case you want to make, you know, changes later. We'll call it gif.psd, which is kind of funny, but you know, you want to save it to have a copy of it you can use again later. So that's going to wrap up my tutorial on how to make an animated GIF, text, button, banner. Use it and show me some of your examples. We're over on facebook.com/SykStudios. Show me some of your examples that you've done. I'd love to see them. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Syk_Studios. And of course, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.